What's up, everybody? Welcome to a Safety Meeting Rising World tutorial. So what I'd like to teach you is how to control the width, length, and height of different beams and planks. And once we get the hang of that, that is what's going to allow us to go to the next step and start putting in things like stairways and little decorative items like these little beams with the 45-degree angles cut into them and stuff like that. So what I kind of have planned here is this is my tutorial house. This is just a randomly generated place that I plopped the farmhouse right down in the middle of it in hopes that maybe I can help some people out with getting some bigger and better builds. Now you can see right now I'm in creative, and normally I'm not, but for the sake of the tutorial I'm going to be in creative the whole time. If you're in survival and you're looking forward to doing some building with the extended construction system, all you have to do is go out, chop some trees, come on over to your crafting bench here, and under resources, grab as much lumber as you think you're going to need. Come on over to the saw bench, and this is where you're going to find your planks and your wood beams. We also have glass panes and 4 different types of window frames. Now we're eventually going to go through those as well, which is why I have over here a bare window. So I'm going to show you how to trim in some of that stuff as well. But for right now, we're going to concentrate on just learning how to control these things. So what we want to do is, I probably already have some of these in my inventory, I'm not even sure, but we'll get something close to the color that we want for the house. And I'm just going to grab a couple of stacks of these. So we'll do the same thing. That was item ID 69. So to grab the same color, we'll do the same item ID. Do a couple of stacks of those as well. So here's what we're going to do. Now I have this little spot right here all picked out for our tutorial. And the reason for this white spot is so you can see the grid just a little bit easier. And this is what I'm talking about. Now as long as we have a beam or a plank in our hand, we can press F1 and that's going to bring up the menu. And this is how we can control everything about our build. Now it looks like there's a lot of stuff, but some of these things you're not even going to end up using. For right now, we're going to concentrate on the left, right, up, down, and page up and down. And these are all going to do different things depending on whether you're holding down shift or not. Now it sounds confusing, but it's not. Especially if you keep in mind we have our backspace button, which resets all of our planks back to their original position. Because sometimes this will get confusing. You'll sit there for a full minute just trying to figure out which direction your plank is even facing. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, that means you haven't gotten too deep into the construction system yet. You will definitely run into that problem. So the other thing that we can do is press G, and that brings up a grid. And you can see that my board just instantly snapped right to the center of the grid. This is how you can get into a little bit more precision. And that's also why I put the white blocks down, was just so you can see the grid a little easier. It kind of camouflages away on the floor over here. But here is how we can control all of our planks. So here's what we want to do in order to manipulate the sizes and the rotation of our beams. Now, in order to rotate it, we can use our left and right arrow keys. And these are going to move in 15-degree increment, which means every 6 presses of the key is going to move the board 90 degrees. So if we do right arrow key, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you can see that it just moved it 90 degrees. We do 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we just moved it a full 180 degrees. That was 12 hits of the key. Now if we use our up and down arrow keys, if we go down arrow, it's going to lay our board horizontal. So if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, now we have a horizontal board. So that's how you control the different directions. Now we can take our left and right arrow keys and rotate it this way now. Now you might have thought our left and right arrow keys were going to rotate it possibly counterclockwise, maybe this direction. That's where the confusion comes in and you're going to end up hitting a lot of wrong buttons. If you want to rotate it now counterclockwise, we have to use the page up and page down buttons. So if I press page down, now it's going to rotate it the direction you probably thought it was going to go originally. So that's where the confusion comes in. So just remember that if you start hitting buttons, you're like, okay, so if you intended on rotating it this way, but you ended up hitting the wrong button, and you're like, oh man, I hit the wrong button. And if you start hitting more buttons, I mean, this thing can get so crazy looking. And look at the angle that our board is on right now. It's going to take you forever to figure out how to get it back to how it was. So if you hit backspace, it's just going to default it right back to where it originally was. So the buttons that we used for that were up, down, left, right arrow keys, and page up and page down. Now we're going to throw the shift button into the mix. If we hold down shift, we're going to hit the left arrow key. Now watch what happens. Now you can see we didn't rotate, we just changed the size of our board. Now you can go down to just a little shim for a door jamb or something like that, all the way up to, if we hit the right arrow key, now we're going to do basically a full sheet of plywood. If we step back, we've got almost, I would consider this a 4 foot by 8 foot sheet of plywood, standard size. So there's our plywood, versus if we hold down shift and press the left arrow key, now we just made a smaller piece. And you can keep doing that down to all the way down to that. I keep hearing a cow. I think we have a cow wanting to figure out what we got going on in here. So that's how we adjusted the width. Now let me get rid of these. And let's adjust the height now. Now if we want to adjust the height, so let's get us back to a plank here. I think that's about the size of a plank. Now if we want to adjust the height, we use the shift again, and sometimes this can get a little bit difficult to see. Depends on where you're placing it and what kind of an angle of view you're actually looking at. So sometimes you might have to guess the exact height of where you're at. But if we hold down shift, now we're going to use the up and down arrow keys. Now if I could use the down key, now I think you can see this. Maybe I should have made a white wall. There we go. Magic new white wall. Now we can see it much better. So now if we want to adjust the height, if we hold down shift and use the down arrow key, now you can see that we're changing the height of the plank. And the height, you can go all the way down to, let's see how far you can go. Now you could turn this into a little square button if we wanted by holding shift and doing the left arrow key. See how small we just made that? You can do little decorative pieces. And now here's where the grid comes into play for little things like that. If you want to make these all perfectly in line with each other, then you would just get the grid out, and then you can put any decorative pieces anywhere you want. And if they're too far apart, hit the minus key, and now you can actually put these things wherever you want. So that's one of the options that you can do. And I realize I'm just doing very random things here, but I want to show you more the controls. I'm not really going into what we're capable of building. If you know how to control it, you can build anything. So now what we want to do is grab a beam. And the beams are pretty much the same thing. The only difference is they're always going to be square. So if I hold down shift and press the left arrow key, you can see that I can go right down to a pretty small beam. And if we go right arrow key, we can go right up to a huge column. And when you start getting into these columns, that's when you can get into some of that decoration with the grids and things like that. And then again, for the height, it's the same thing. If you hold down shift and left arrow key, that's going to shrink it, and right arrow key, it's gonna make it grow taller. And so that's really about it for the actual controls to be able to position them. It's just a matter now of figuring out the little tricks on what is the best way to do some of those builds. Now another thing that we can do with the planks, let's get back and get some planks back in our hand here. And I'm going to hold down shift and up arrow and get our height back. I don't know what height I'm going to need just yet, but, and also hold down shift right arrow. It's going to make my plank get wide again. What I'm going to do is just real fast. Actually, it's, wow, I got pretty lucky. I got the right height. So what I'm going to do is show you how to real quickly put in a wall right here. And you can do it a couple of different ways. So what we want to do is get this board rotated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now we know that it's at a 90 degree. And what we want to do is just bring a little privacy wall off right here. Maybe this is a little bathroom. Actually, in reality, this is where the bathroom is. So we want to have a little privacy wall right here, but we don't want to make it out of a block because this is what the width of a block right here. Now that's a huge wall. That's taking up a lot of space. And also we have this little decorative beam right here. We want to be able to see that. We'll just put it right about in there. And if you wanted to get more high tech, again, we can use the grid system. And that way, like if we wanted these boards to match, like if we wanted to meet up to a doorway, we can snap it to here. And then we know when we come over here, as long as we just snap the board over, we know those are going to line up all the way across the floor and be able to touch each other when they meet in the middle. Right now, we don't need to get that high tech. So I'm going to just turn the grid off. We are going to do something with the width here. Now, keep in mind, you can also do this for fences. So I'm going to show you a couple of different ways here. I'm going to make this a little bit narrower by holding shift and left arrow key. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click right about in this area. Now I want to make sure my cursor can stay along this section of the wall right here. And that's going to be the important part, and you'll see why in just a second. If we press and hold your left mouse, you can actually drag planks. See how we're dragging all of these planks right over to this other side of the wall now? So we'll go ahead and I'll right click. Now that just put in an entire wall. And now you can see, well, shoot, if that's a bathroom, I don't want anybody peeking in on there. So that's the default width that they're going to come. But we don't want it to have any kind of a crack in there at all because we don't want anybody seeing what we're doing in there. So let's get rid of this real fast. Now this is the drawback to dragging these. I'm glad I did this actually. The drawback to dragging these is if all of the planks are where you want them, but you accidentally screw up, like the very last one, you went one plank too far. Watch what happens when I click this one plank. Bam, we just lost the whole wall. So that's the only bummer to doing the drag and drop, is you're going to lose the whole bunch. Every one of those planks counts as one piece of lumber. So that's actually going to come out of your inventory as each individual plank that you laid down. It's not one plank for each drag. So now what we want to do is to save lumber, we don't want to have any cracks in there, but we don't want to use a whole bunch of planks either. So what we're going to do now, just make the width a little bit bigger. So that's the maximum width right there. So now what we can do is, same principle, we can do our drag across. We're not going to use as much material now, but you can still, we still have that gap in there. We don't want that gap. So here's what we're going to do. Now, even if we had it down to this narrow one again, we get ourselves lined up. What we do now is, while we're holding the left mouse, now if we press plus or minus, here's the plus. Now you can see, now picture this for a fence application as well. Now you can go pretty far apart. We'll go ahead and just build it. So now if you're doing something like for a fence, that's going to install a fence really quick. But again, for a bathroom, we don't want that. We're going to grab our plank and same thing. We'll drag it. Now we're going to go minus as far as we can go. And we just closed it up completely. So now we can drag across. And I just ran out of material. But now you can see we don't have any gaps at all. So now for like a simple fence application, so we've got some planks there. Now we could come over here and let's shift and arrow down, and that's going to shorten our plank. And just right arrow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now what we can do is let's pretend this is outside, or even the start of a countertop or something like that. So now we click left mouse and drag. Now we can come over here, but now we want it to have a gap. While we're holding it, we hit the plus, and that's going to make our gap a little bit bigger. And hit right click, and now we just made ourselves a fence. So that's kind of the quick way to do that. But again, this counts as one piece of lumber, another piece of lumber. So that's individual pieces of material that you're using. So if you're in survival, don't go completely nuts with using that method. So let's get rid of these. Now the next thing that I want to do, and we're going to do this just real quick, and we're not even going to do this to completion. Again, this is just more of how to control the stuff rather than learning how to actually do a build right now. I want to show you how to get started a set of stairs. So we want a plank to start up here and go down on a 45-degree angle right down onto the floor. So let's grab our plank, and here's where a little trick actually comes into play. When I put my plank up here. Now let's get this thing rotated so it's parallel to the wall. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now we're flat up against the wall. And now we want to rotate this thing clockwise 3 times. And that's going to put us on a 45-degree angle. So we go 1, 2, 3. So now we're on the 45-degree angle that we need. But you can see, I want to get this all the way down to the floor. But because we're lacking a wall right here, as soon as my cursor, my little crosshairs, come off of that corner, it totally moves where that plank needs to be. So make sure, have yourself some expendable blocks that you don't care about in your inventory at any given time. So now what we're going to do is, and these are just temporary, so it doesn't matter where you put them. We're just going to go ahead and throw a couple right into here. Now, if we grab that plank, you can see we just really opened up the range of motion of where we can actually place this. So what we're going to do is we want the corner of it to be right about in that area there. And so we're going to hold down shift and up arrow, and that's going to lengthen our board. And that's when these extra planks come in handy, because now you can see our corner. See where our corner is lining up to the second floor? And our crosshairs aren't anywhere close to where our wall is. There's no way we would have been able to do that without those extra blocks. So I'm going to right click it, and that places our board. And now we can just go ahead and get rid of these blocks because they served our purpose. Now there's probably an easier way to do this than what I just did, but as I've said in the past, I am not an expert at this game. I am just showing you the way that I know how to do it. But, so here's what we want to do now. We got to continue this board right down into the floor. Now we can do this manually if we wanted, but it's kind of a pain. You can see, now if we zoom in a little bit, you can see that this board is all over the place, and it's not going to be real easy to line up or anything. You could probably line it up a little bit like that, but it's going to be off. Actually, it's off quite a bit right now. So what we can do is, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. You just got to make sure you're positioned in the right way. If we go right end to end, now you can see, we zoom in again, we're still all sloppy in the way that this moves. If we press enter, we just snapped end to end. You see how clean that is? Now, one thing to keep in mind, if we were on the second floor, then this is something we would have to worry about. But since we're the ground floor without a basement, right now we got about a 12-foot piece of plank. So if we snap this end to end, there's only about 1.5 feet of plank coming to the floor. So we got about 10 feet of plank underneath the ground right now. So if I hold shift and press the down arrow key, now you can see that board is moving. There we go. So now, just in case we did have a floor below us, we can kind of control this, that, all right, now it just dove into the floor, and right click, and there we go. Now we have the start of our stairs. Now, like I said, I'm not going to build this to completion, but I just want to kind of show you real quickly how you can use the grid system and things like that. So now we want the actual stairs. Now when I hit enter, that kind of changed the whole behavior of our plank. Now you can see right now, it just wants to kind of sit right in that one spot. So we hit enter, and that puts us back into to freeform. And if we go backspace, now we're completely back to our default position. So what we want to do now is get this thing rotated around into the orientation of a stair. All right, so I'm going to press the right arrow key, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that puts us our 90 degrees up against the stairway there. Now we want to use our down arrow key, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now that gives us the orientation that we need. Now as far as the length, we want to go pretty much the opening that we have for our floor here. So if we just eyeball it up here, now hold shift and up arrow key, now you can see right about there, that's going to give us about the length that we want. So now what we can do, this is going to depend on how accurate you want to be. Right now we can just do this as is. We can put a stair right here, put one there, another one there, and it's going to look fine, it's going to work fine. It's just going to depend on how precise do you want to actually be with your stairway. That's where the grid system comes in. So if we grab our plank and press G, now we can get a lot more precise on where these stairs are going to be. So I'm going to press the plus button to open this grid up a little bit. Now what we can do is, if we come down here, we can put in a plank, come up a couple, put in a plank. Now you can see how quick we just put in a set of stairs, and we can run right up. Oh, we might as well finish it up, huh? So now you can see how quickly we just made stairs. Now we can get a lot more nitpicky by adjusting the widths and things like that. So let's get our grid out. Now, if I hold down shift and right arrow key, that's going to adjust our width. So we can really play around with the actual look of the stairs. We can have it sink completely in, just be a narrow stair. We could even get rid of the grid, and we can match the stair to the width of the support if we want. When you have it snapped with a grid, you can see we have a little bit of an overhang. So in that case, you'd minus the grid, and then we can kind of play around a little bit. But it's going to be a little bit more difficult. The smaller the grid, the more you're going to have to count to make sure that you're the same amount of spaces away. But me, I actually like the look of it. Like if it's like this, I like having that little bit of extension right there, kind of hanging off. So that's the quick way to make stairs. And then real quickly for the next side, all we have to do is we hit backspace, and that's going to change our orientation again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Page down, page up, 1, 2, 3. And there's our 45-degree angle. Now all we need to do, we can actually use these stairs now. Let's just get rid of the grid here because I'm just doing this for an example. Let's see, so on the other side, yeah, we're about right in there. So hold down shift, and probably right about in there. And then we do the same thing. We go end to end, enter, snaps it, right click. There's our set of stairs. Now I did that quick. I didn't really bother doing anything decorative or anything like that. That was just purely to show you how quickly and easily you can make stairs. And by adjusting that grid, you can really change where everything actually falls into place. If you wanted to get real decorative with it, then you can start grabbing your beams, and let's see, we'll hit enter to get it back into freeform. Hold down shift, left arrow, give it a smaller beam. Let's just put one right there, just for let's just put it like right in here. Let's make sure it's the right length. So this is where you have to kind of make sure that everything's going to be the right length. Just kind of work off to the side a little bit. Now we know, all right, so that should be about right. And we'll put that there. So now we have the start of a little support system for our stairs. And I just threw that in there just to show you, but there you go. Now we have some stairs. So now the last thing that I'm going to show you real fast is the window trim. And this is actually pretty easy. I'm just going to show you real fast how I did it. And it's just real simple with a plank. Let's hit the backspace, and that's going to reorient it. So if you use the right arrow key, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's going to flatten us against the house. So now since we changed the direction that way, we're going to use the page up and page down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold down shift and down arrow. 1, 2, well, like I said, we don't need to count that one off. So we get it the length that we want, which is probably, no, just get in right nice and close. Now I don't do this with the grid on because the way that the grid snaps, it messes me up a lot. So I do this all manual, and whoops. I want to hold down shift and left arrow key. So that's going to give us the whatever width of the trim that you want. But I do all of this manual, and you can kind of cheat a little bit with the zoom. If you press the Z, oh, that one's not going to work because I'm too far away. Let's try this. So if you press Z, now you can see that that's our corner right there, and it'll show you just how accurate you can actually be. Now that's just me being nitpicky, and then you just right click, and then boom, you've got your first piece of trim. And then for the next one, and I purposely leave a little bit of an overhang right there because it makes it easier to put the next piece on. So now we're just going to go page down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and do the same thing. We're going to go right into the trim, and our length is just a little bit off. Then we eyeball everything in there, and boom, there's our first corner, second corner there. So we've got that one. Obviously we're not matching, but that's fine. So now I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the bottom I made a little bit wider. So we'll hold shift, right arrow, and that widened it a little bit for us. And we're not quite at the width that we need, so hold shift and up arrow. Hello, cow. What do you think of the dig so far? You like it? Ooh, I think he likes it. All right, so now the cow messed me up a little bit. I kind of put that one off to the side a little, and you can see right there that I didn't quite get that one on, but that's all right. You get the idea. And then for this little windowsill part, this part was really easy. All you have to do is it kind of locks itself right in there, and then page down. I think it's down arrow key. Nope. Nope. Okay, yeah, this is the situation you get in when you're not sure which way it's oriented. So I'm gonna hit backspace and start from scratch here. All right, so I'm gonna go arrow down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold shift and right arrow, and that is gonna give us some width. You can see that I just made it too long. All right, and then just a matter of kind of wiggling it in. Now I know there's a way you can use the grid for this, but the grid for in these situations actually messes me up. So hit right click and then boom, you got your whole windowsill. All right, so now we got our windowsill. Yeah, the cow definitely likes it. And that brings us to the very last thing. Let me get some daylight up in here though. We made it to the end of the extended construction system. Now there is a lot that I didn't go over. I just wanted to be able to get you started and hopefully comfortable with the extended construction system. So here's what we're gonna do. We got window frame A, B, C, and D. I think I have frame C in the bottom right now. So let's go with our ID number of 69 and craft the item. So there's our window frame, and I think glass right now, even in survival, is free. So I don't think there's a way to make glass just yet. So go to glass plane, craft the item, and the cool thing with these window frames is it doesn't matter really what size you make the stuff. It's gonna automatically snap it. Whoop, wrong button. It's gonna automatically snap it to the size that you need. So here's our window frame. Now if we hold it in, We just need to get it rotated, so right arrow. And you can see it automatically adjusted itself to the opening of that window. Now up here, let's go into fly mode here. These windows are only 2 wide, or these windows are only 1 block wide. So you can see that the frame didn't quite work, but if we wanted to get real high tech, we could have just thrown a plank in there and everything would have worked out fine. So that's how easy the window frames are to work. And the way that I have mine set up is they kind of look like they're all one piece. And the way that I got that little illusion was really easy, actually. You just go on the outside, instead of setting your window frame in the middle here, kind of line it up right into the corner of the trim that you did. And that gives you the nice carpenter look. So that's how you do that. And then for the glass plane, it's the same thing. All you have to do is just get it somewhere in the basic vicinity and right click and you have glass. And one of the cool things with the glass real fast also is all of the different kinds of glass that there are. And one thing that I've been seeing is a lot of people are using some of these frosted glasses as a way to kind of cheat the water update for right now. So they're actually using the glass to make it look like it's little pools of water and things like that, which is actually pretty cool. It's a good idea. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do. You can get really creative. Hi, do you want to buy the place? It's for sale. Nah, she's a quiet one. That's okay. Like I said, I'm sure I missed a bunch of stuff, and if I did, I'm sorry. Anybody that's watching this, you can definitely put in the comments anything that I didn't go over, or if there was something that's a lot easier the way, or if there's something that's much easier to do rather than the way that I did it, please, by all means, leave it in the comments. And if I'm so far off that I should change the tutorial around, I will do that, no problem. So, all right. Well, I really hope this helps somebody, and as always, I appreciate everybody for watching, and if you enjoyed the episode or if it did help you, please leave me a like. I appreciate that as well, and it'll also let me know that the tutorials are working. And if there's something specific that you'd like to learn how to do, leave that in the comments as well. I would definitely be more than happy to take on some requests. So for now, my cow and I are going to hang out and relax for the rest of the night, and I appreciate everybody for stopping by, and I will see you guys next time.